So over the weekend, the Toronto Raptors traded away OG Anunoby to the New York Knicks. This is a player that I really like for Philadelphia, giving his shooting ability. He can play off ball, but most importantly, his superior wing defense. No longer are the Philadelphia 76ers going to be able to trade for him. The good news is we have 3 trade targets to get to on today's 76ers now after Anunoby was dealt to the New York Knicks. First, Joel Embiid is back. He will play tonight against the Chicago Bulls on this Tuesday. Philadelphia, surprisingly, 0-2 against the Bulls this year, but Embiid has had so much success against Chicago throughout his entire career. So type 2-1 to welcome him back, and with that, let's take a look at these trade targets right now. Happy New Year to everybody who watched the show. This is Philadelphia 76ers Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. Hope you all had a safe and fun New Year's Eve, and your 2024 is off to a great start. Bleacher Report naming their top 3 Sixers trade targets after the OG Anunoby trade, and we focus in on one of Anunoby's former teammates. That is Pascal Siakam. Clearly, Toronto is in a spot here where they're looking at selling. Pascal Siakam in a contract year. OG Anunoby in a contract year as well. So could the Raptors look to compile a lot of assets, trading away Anunoby as well as Siakam, 2 players who helped lift them to that championship back in 2019? There's this report from Adrian Wojnarowski that Toronto is expected to continue to explore trades involving Siakam. Siakam has said he wants to remain with the only organization that he knows to continue to call Toronto home. But we know that this is a business, and we know that there are teams out there who are really intrigued by Siakam. Could it be Nick Nurse in Philadelphia, considering the ties that Nurse has with Siakam and his ability to impact games on both ends of the floor? He's not an Anunoby type of shooter, and this year, the shooting numbers continue to struggle for Siakam. It's down to 28.5% from three-point range. The field goal overall number is not that bad. So inside the three-point arc, he's still been a pretty efficient player at sub 52%. The overall raw numbers not bad either at 22 points per game and 6.5 rebounds, 5 dimes as well. But the lack of shooting and him being in a contract year and having to demand a large deal after this one could pose some problems for the Sixers. Why it does make sense though, he is a pretty dynamic offensive player. If the three-point numbers go up and he starts to knock down some of those shots, it makes his offensive game easier for himself and obviously more beneficial for the team because teams can't sag off on him as much like they would do with the player like Ben Simmons. They'll have to front him. Then he can use that length and that athleticism to kind of get by you a little bit. And he's not a bad passer. So he's dynamic because he's long, he's athletic. Those long strides like a Giannis allows him to get to the cup. He's also a very good defender with a lot of versatility because of his height, but because of that length, he can guard multiple positions. And then lastly, has that familiarity with Nick Nurse. And when he was playing under Nick Nurse, that's when he was playing the best ball of his career, and Nick Nurse runs a shooting camp. So he's been able to help players inflate their three-point shooting numbers. The issue, though, is that he's not shooting great this year. He is going to be a free agent. How much do you give up for a player like Pascal Siakam if you're going to let him walk, or how much do you pay him in free agency if you do want him back? Let's get to today's poll question here, and part of the great thing about this YouTube channel is that we allow you to have a voice, and we value your feedback, and we want you to show off your basketball intellect. Would you trade and pay for Pascal Siakam? Type Y for yes or type N for no. Sixers trade target number 2, DeMar DeRozan, who the Sixers went up against earlier this season twice. And without Zach LaVine playing, DeMar DeRozan and the Bulls are actually playing really good hoop, and DeRozan continues to put up really good numbers. Again, the issue with DeRozan, the three-point numbers are down, and he's pretty much not even willing to take three-point shots. I will say that his impact to score the rock without having a three-point game has always been pretty impressive, and he's even explained it that way, where he says, look, Why do I have to take three-point shots if I'm able to still score around 22 points per game and I live in the mid-range, I can get to the cup? And that is impressive that he's able to do that. 22-plus points per game this year, 5-plus dimes, little less than 4 rebounds. I don't love that DeRozan isn't a great defensive player. I think the Sixers need to get a little bit better there, and I think that he actually makes you worse as a defensive team. The good with DeRozan, dynamic playmaker, and a scorer who's great in the clutch. This is one of the players who can get you a bucket late. And the Sixers in the playoffs have had issues with that. With Joel Embiid, who gets doubled, with James Harden, when the offensive possessions would just die. With DeRozan, you know that he can create to get to the hoop or to get to his mid-range spot. And he can rise up, and he's very efficient inside the three-point arc. The top clutch scorers this year, DeMar DeRozan is 6th. He's behind Anthony Simons, behind Damian Lillard, LeBron James, Mikal Bridges, who I would love as a Sixers trade target, as well as Kyrie Irving. You see DeRozan there, 4.4 points per game, 60.5% on his field goals in crunch time. The negatives with him, not a three-point threat because of the lack of efficiency. He's not a three-point threat because he doesn't really shoot the long ball at all. And he could clog up the mid-range that Embiid loves to operate in. And again, in the playoffs, when the games slow down, what happens? Teams swarm Embiid with all those double teams. And if you have DeRozan in there, as well as Embiid, sometimes 3 bodies will kind of shade toward Embiid, and then it's up to him to pass and find some of his other offensive teammates there. But we know that he can get a little bit flustered, and the game seems to move a little bit quickly when Embiid is pressured, like what some of the defenses do when he is on the floor. Similar to Siakam, DeMar DeRozan, also in a contract year here. So that does allow you to keep cap flexibility. And Philadelphia has been said to really want that, to maintain that. But again, how much do you give up? So if you could trade for one of these players here, Pascal Siakam, DeMar DeRozan, who are you going with? You could type PS for Pascal Siakam, or if you like some double Ds in your life, type DD for DeMar DeRozan. Coming up next on the show, final Sixers trade target from Bleacher Report, but first let's pay our bills, and let's say thank you to Factor for making today's 76ers now possible. You want to kick off 2024 in the right direction, on the right foot, on the right track. You can do that with these healthy meals from Factor, but also saving some money in your bank account. You can get 50% off when you use the code NBAChat50. Get started on your resolutions with Factor so that you're ready for 2024. Hit it in stride, ladies and gentlemen. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery service takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success in the new year. Skip the grocery stores, prep work, and cooking fatigue, and instead get these chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered straight to your door. With over 35 meals to choose from every week, including options like keto, calorie smart, vegan and veggie, and more, plus over 55 weekly add-ons, you'll have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart your resolutions. You pick your pre-made meals when you go to factormeals.com/NBAChat50. All of these meals are prepped and cooked to perfection. All you have to do when you get them in a chilled box, heat them up and enjoy them. 50% off, code NBAChat50. Last Sixers trade target. Not of the significance of a DeMar DeRozan or Pascal Siakam trade. Instead, this would be a little bit of a move to fortify your depth to a certain degree. Siakam, DeRozan, both averaging more than 20 points per game this year, and they've been getting it done for a really long time. Gary Harris, on the other hand, was a former first-round pick out of Michigan State, some good moments with the Denver Nuggets, and now a solid rotation piece for a Magic team that surprised everybody this year in playoff contention, who Philadelphia was able to be victorious against without Joel Embiid last week. The numbers for Harris this year: 7 points per game, just under 2 dimes, under 2 rebounds. So this is a player who's not going to really impact the game outside of scoring it and coming in off the bench. He's had better field goal numbers in the past. The numbers this year, not good. But on this team, alongside Maxey and alongside Embiid, Tobias Harris, if he's still with this team, with some of these other options, are you banking on him maybe being able to get freed up for some open looks where the numbers go up a little bit. While you would want Gary Harris, he's a really, really good on-ball defender. So unlike DeRozan, he can impact the game on the defensive end, just like Siakam can impact the game on the defensive end. Different players, but similar thought processes here of what they can bring to your squad. And he has previously been a solid to good shooter throughout his career. He shot 43% from long range last year. So those are pretty good numbers for Gary Harris. This year, though, the averages have kind of played out a little bit. He's at sub 37%, or that's for his career, and then the numbers that we just showed you right around that number as well. So again, you kind of take the middle range between 43%, really good year last year, and where he is at for his career at 36.8. Can you get him between 38% and 40% coming in off the bench and playing high leverage basketball as a defender, and you're not going to have to give up all that much in a trade as far as assets go that you'd have to surrender for Siakam, and you'd have to surrender for a player like DeMar DeRozan, and you're not also paying him as much money as those previous two players too. If you can't make the big trade and the big splash, and anybody who thinks that the Sixers should trade for Zach LaVine, I think you're crazy. I think that Harris would be a really good fit off the bench. It won't cost as much, and he's going to be a free agent as well on another one of those expiring deals. So who do you want to see the Sixers trade for? Drop a name down below in the comments section. If you're big into your, trade machine bag, you can drop a couple of names for us. Sound off with what you think down below, and as you venture down to the comment section, show some love to the program here by subscribing, and you'll be a winner at the end of the day because you'll be updated, and you'll stay in the know with everything going down with the Sixers with our year-round coverage right here on 76ers Now.